Response video, I think, to this guy, some Indian guy, India way over there kind of thing. IndianHeathen1982 and such. Anyway, I made a video, utilitarianism, Abrahamic God, and efilism. Look at that, efilism. Yay! So anyway, yeah, so we'll play his video. It has something to report. Oh yeah, Verizon didn't show up. They're supposed to be here today to restore my internet connection. Didn't do it. And thank you for the advice on the computer virus thing over there. But yeah, nah, none of it works. Anyway, it'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, to connect to a regular broadband, see if the virus is in this computer or whether it's in that computer. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'll probably give up before they show up and just start with my old hard drive. But I really don't want to reinfect another hard drive, so that's the tricky part. Yeah, that would be dumb. Well, I'll think of something. Or I won't. One or the other. Anyway, back to this guy. I should just watch the other hard drive get infected. Well, anyway, let's just do this. It'll be fun. Play.
That it could become negative in the future.
Let's see.
I think one must take that risk. If an ephilist, who's risk averse, has his finger on his button, as it were, would press it for the fear that M would become. I think that an ephilist would press the button for the fear that M would become negative. He'd like to set it equal to 0 forever. That's his solution to the principle: maximize happiness while minimizing suffering.
Yeah, whatever. So he's doing this logical math kind of thing, and that's fine, but, it sort of just misses the point. If you say you're risk averse, that means something. It means that you probably have a higher value on preventing negatives, not compensating for them. So you don't go out looking for a positive to compensate for the negative. You look for a way of preventing the negative. I'd almost argue, as I have argued, that positives are really just a perception of positive. That there aren't any real positives. There's just the elimination of the negative potential. That's the state we're in. We satisfy deprivations. We satisfy negative states, therefore think we've accomplished something positive because we've dug ourselves out of a hole, so to speak. And there aren't any intrinsic true positives. There's only the positive of mitigating against a negative, either in the form of pain or in the form of deprivation. Yeah.
For me, I think that the chance to make M positive should be taken. I see the glass as half empty.
Yeah, whether it's half full or half anything, this whole half thing is you've conceded before that the perception in efilism is that it's a zero-sum game. So there is no half, okay? There's just empty and something more than empty, and you can't do that. It's either empty or some sort of negative state. So this contrivance of a halfway point where you somehow automatically have a half-full glass is itself a canard. It's a lie. You haven't demonstrated any half-fullness. Are the Martians missing out on half-fullness? Are the Venetians missing out on half-fullness because they don't exist? So again, where does this automatic presumption of a half-fullness possibility even come from? Where's your evidence of it? Where's the argument pointing out the intrinsic necessary function, the utility that we perform, the value that we perform? How are we fuel for any part of the positive universe engine, if such a thing could exist?
Not full, half full. I think that in order to make M positive, one must work within the laws of nature and not to have
work within the laws of nature. What does that mean? What law is that? What laws of nature? Gravity? We have to work within the laws of gravity? Come on, nature doesn't have any laws. It has functions. It has properties. The energy has properties. And when it forms into matter, that matter has properties. And when it forms into one of these things, the property it has is consciousness, and the function of consciousness in the scale of evolution, in the context of evolution, is just to make us, just to control our behavior, more so it's more conducive to us stealing energy from something else that has it, to create copies of ourselves. That's what all my previous ancestors did.
False conceit that somehow we can control nature or change the laws of nature. We cannot.
Well, again, there's nothing in efilism about controlling the laws of nature. The premise is that you just don't be an obedient slave to some Borg that nature creates. So if it creates a replicating molecule that just replicates for the sake of replication, you can look at that and say maybe it's a bad idea. If you were to find an island that was still lost in the past, and the highest form of life was a Tyrannosaurus, so what, would you just sit there and validate it because nature made it, it's a good thing? I mean, there's just no rule here that says it's because nature made it, it's a good thing. We can analyze it and say, is it on balance accomplishing anything? And is the suffering of all these sentient beings accomplishing anything? The simple answer is no. The only value, the only cause or reason that can be contrived to justify it is all perceptual. Somebody says, testifies, I think it's a good thing. They don't give a rational reason explaining how it's necessary in the universe, or how the goodness of it is intrinsic.
I don't see how we could change the laws of nature. We must work with nature and not against it.
Well, again, what does that say? You must be obedient to dumb, crude forces that are manipulating matter through the progression of time. And no matter how preposterous it gets, it doesn't matter how many Jews get killed or how many, it doesn't matter. Ebola, it doesn't matter how horrific it gets. You're supposed to say, yes, I will just be an obedient slave to the mechanism no matter what happens. That would, I think you're being intellectually dishonest to say that you would accept life on any terms. And the fact is it can be on almost any terms. Sorry, cat.
We must also consider both the long-term and short-term consequences of our actions. It is obviously hard to predict what the long-term consequences are, but it seems...
No, well, some predictions are really easy. The prediction that life will be exterminated in the end anyway. Planet Earth will no longer exist. These are rock-solid predictions. The game's going to be over eventually anyway. There's nowhere for the game to evolve to. It's basically a mechanism that's just built on the fact that you create dissatisfaction to create satisfaction. There's nothing redeeming. There's nothing accomplished in playing the game, and the proof of that can be easily recognized in your own psychology, but by just imagining the game to be played by some other alien species, and you're no longer all that concerned with its survival. You're just not. And you have to ask yourself why. Why don't you lament the non-existence of the Martians? That's right, because they don't serve a purpose.
It seems to me that there's not much doubt that global warming, depletion of what people call non-renewable sources, water shortages, etc., does occur.
Well, you said it was hard to predict, and now you're saying there's no doubt. So you know that we're facing this very dicey prospect for future. You got 7 billion people hungry, for the same hamburger. There's not enough pieces of pie to go around. Essentially, you're conceding that point. We know what human beings do when there's not enough pie to go around, and yet you see reason to be optimistic. When you have all this evidence that it's probably more likely to be ugly than pretty, the future.
As a result of human activities. And it has happened. My view is that I believe that people will eventually find solutions to these things, and one must not take such a drastic drastic step as an effortless solution to these problems.
Yeah, well, that's like saying there's some redeeming use to polio or Ebola or something else. You know, somebody could argue that, oh, don't make them extinct because those things might turn out to be really cool. You don't have any evidence that it might turn out really cool. You have no rational reason to think it will. And again, if you really analyze it, even without the prospects of all this global warming and all these other deprivations that exist in terms of making things really horrible and difficult, even if we had it easy, even if the future looked really bright, the game that the human organism is playing is limited. It's a game built out of this idea of competition. We thrive and live for it. So it's just a denial of the facts to sit there and pretend that there's something else we're going to do with our intelligence. We're just going to use it to beat the crap out of each other. This cat wants food. Alright, I'll have to come back to this. I have to edit. Oh, okay, leave us finish here.
I think that M is positive overall, and I think that M is increasing in value.
Well, okay, I think, well, there's no rational explanation. So you think the Martians are necessary, you think the Martians would serve a purpose, you think it would be a good idea to make Martians so they could be on Mars doing whatever jerky-off things that Martians do for their own personal gratification, that somehow the universe is elevated because Martians are whacking off on Mars. That's what you're saying to me. That every planet should have its own little intellectual little beings on it, pretending they're on some bold adventure, accomplishing some magnificent accomplishment. So we should populate every single planetoid in the universe with some sort of organism with a big giant ego who thinks it's accomplishing something.
Despite all our problems and despite all the potential pitfalls that are facing humanity.
Yeah, in spite of the risk. Let's just keep playing the stupid game. What? God damn you. What? What? You making that noise at me? I gave you food. You didn't want it. Is it my fault you don't like the food? I don't think it is. I give you that stuff and you'll sit there and think, you know, every time you make noise you get something special. Well, that's a bad idea. So I shouldn't have done that because I just fucked his psychology entirely. Now he'll say, all I have to do is be a pain in the ass and he'll give me treats. Shit.
The very fact that I can communicate with you in this manner shows that we're living in an amazing age, and I think that...
Yeah, amazing, 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 wonderful, 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 beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. These are all useless terms. This is not scientific. So here you're pretended you care about logic and math. And then you just throw a word like amazing. Ooh, it's amazing. It's now, why don't you just go with like awe-inspiring or some other emotive term that just has to do with your psychology. That's all it is. That's just that's terminology of psychology. Amazement. Okay? Has nothing to do with anything else. The fact that we're here, oh, yeah, okay, use the word amazing, but use it in the right context. Understand that the word doesn't mean anything. It just means that, wow, we're impressed because there's a lot of numbers. But they're just all numbers. You know, logically, 1 million is not better than 1. You know, a gazillion isn't, you know, we can put all the numbers, you know, 1, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 19, 21, 64, you know, we can do a big long number. But it's not better than the number 42. I mean, logically. It's not amazing. It's only amazing to us because we're looking back at it and we're saying, holy shit, look how different this is from a bag of dirt.
And I think that things can only get better if we decide to work within the laws of nature. If not, nature will take care of it.
Yeah, nature will take care of everybody and everything, like it always has for 500 billion years. It's just taken wonderful care of things, right? It's look at this poor cat's got sores on it and shit because it's got some sort of, you know, head problem at the moment, and it can't stop scratching its head. Yeah, you know, come on, we know what nature is. It's most of the little kittens don't have a first birthday. So, nature will take care of everything. Well, screw you, okay? I don't want to be part of your insidious, sick, disgusting game. So you have no right to be imposing this crap on any old consciousness. You really don't. I mean, it's really obnoxious to sit there, nature will take care of it. What the hell are you talking about? Nature takes care of nothing. It's cruel and insensitive. It has no... It doesn't care. It'll be as rude can goddamn be. It will eat you for dinner. Literally.
For us, and we will just have to live with whatever nature throws at us. Of course.
Well, no, you should have to live with whatever nature throws at you, okay? But you don't have any right to sit there and force somebody else along and say, well, I know it's a great ride. I know it's fun and worth it. Well, screw you. You don't know that. You don't have any evidence of that. You have no proof of that. You have nothing. Stop it. Will you just do something, cat? I mean, goddamn, I give you food and you whine. You complain and you whine. Go outside. No, you go outside. If you're going to keep complaining, you go outside. Because that's what you do when you complain. Yeah. There, now I'll teach him. That'll teach him. Yeah, you gotta teach him right. I mean, he has perfectly good choices there. He has dry food or the wet food. He doesn't want the wet food? Well, then eat the dry food. Don't be complaining at me.
There's a supernova event near our sun. That's the end of us and the end of the solar system. But the chance of that happening, I think, within our lifetime is quite small.
Oh, yeah, we're right. So now you know the chance that the fact is we might be long overdue for a catastrophe. So, I don't even know if you got that right. Truth be told. I mean, totaling up the odds of a planet not getting hit, like Saturn, was it? No, Jupiter. Jupiter got hit with a big giant, comet or whatever the hell it was a couple of years ago. Maybe we're due for one of those. There, it happened right in our lifetime. A big giant rock hit a big giant planet. Well, maybe we're way overdue for a big giant rock, and we've just been really lucky to get away with it as long as we have.
And one must not think of it. One should just deal with it.
Well, how do you deal? You just deal with it. You just deal with it. Again, you keep talking about what other people have to do when they didn't choose to do it.
But the chance of that happening, I think, within our lifetime is quite small. And one must not think of it. One should just deal with it.
Again, why? Why should one have to deal with it? Why? Because you say so. You're going to keep dragging people here who don't want to be here against their consent to play a game that you can't prove to be worthy, that you can't demonstrate to be any sort of realistic odds, like 1 in 1,000 chance of harm. No, the chances are much greater than that. And especially looking at the current circumstances, it seems quite probable that you're going to be imposing significant harm on somebody. Just common statistics regarding basic health of the human organism, what you're likely to be born with in terms of infirmants and deficiencies because our genetics are deteriorating. And then you add up all these other problems we have economically and socially and environmentally. I mean, screw you. You have no right to impose that on anyone.
It's the way one deals with these things that will...
Yeah, and one deals with these things. The ephilist is arguing that you deal with it by living your life your own way, however you want to. But you don't deal with it by imposing it on somebody else. I mean, the argument is about whether you have a right to impose life, to create life, to be aggressively imposing it on somebody else. The argument isn't whether you should dance around saying, I love life and I love nature and I want to hug a tree. Do that all the fuck you want. Go commune with nature all the fuck you want. The question is, do you have a right to impose it on a new consciousness? Impose your half glass full thing on some new individual, to tell them, I think it's half full and you will enjoy it, or not. I mean, it's just goddamn rude and obnoxious when you have nothing, when you're explaining nothing to me of what the human function is. Explain to me how the universe is deprivated by the absence of Martians. Explain to me how the universe is deprivated because there's no Moonikins or Jupiterites. Till you do that, you have nothing.
Will make you think whether you decide to take that risk or not.
Yeah, no, you take the risk. So again, well, why do you put the word efilism in here? You obviously have no clue what the subject is. The subject is whether you have a right to aggressively impose life on another generation. Whether you have a right to decide for a new individual that life is worth living. Where do you derive that right? Because nature gave you the ability to do it? Well, I'll again make my argument. Nature gave me the ability to make a goddamn fist. Does that mean I have a right to shove it in your fucking face? No, I have to have good cause to do that. You have to have good cause to impose life on somebody. And if your only cause is because you want to, that's not good enough. Because I want to throw my fist in a lot of goddamn faces. Okay, enough of that. Alright, well, whatever. Yeah, whatever. That's all I got to say. Whatever. You're not making an argument why you have a right to impose life. Why you have a right to impose your philosophy on a future generation. To presume them to see you as being wise, or thoughtful, or considerate. Why should they think that? Why shouldn't they just come to the realization, oh, another Borgite, another asshole who's decided because of their selfish own interest that they wish to impose life. They haven't rationally defended the behavior or the action. They're just going to do it because they feel like it. I'm supposed to respect that? Sorry, fail.